Right, Josh, we've just observed the performance of the cricket batsperson. What I'd like to do is analyse and evaluate and comment on the strengths and weaknesses of the performer, visiting skills, tactics and fitness, and whilst doing so, tell me relevant theoretical knowledge that applies to that performer and give me an overall effectiveness and success of that performance. From that point, I'd like to prioritise a major weakness, construct a long-term action plan for that weakness, and then justify your comments through relevant theoretical knowledge. Within the action plan, can you make sure there's a time scale, it's appropriate, there's detailed progressive practices, and any adaptations that you might feel are relevant. Provide coaching points, and then tell me how it can be improved overall. All right with that?
Yep.
Over to you.
So in relation to the performer that I've just watched, some of his skill strengths are straight drive. This is because her head was going down the ground and her foot was getting to the pitch of the ball. In relation to the game, this is a definite run scoring shot as long as he gets past the bowler, possibly for quick singles or boundaries if it's timed well enough. This is because she has high self-efficacy in this shot, possibly. Also, her cover drive was a skill strength. Similar to the straight drive, her foot was going across to the line of the delivery. And it can move the fielders around, possibly from the slip cordon, and then she can manipulate the shots from the following balls. And again, it's a run scoring shot. This could be because she's in the autonomous phase of learning. Also, her leg glance was a skill strength, as she was using the pace to get the ball very fine, which is a guaranteed run shot because the fielders rarely ever place there. She could have had positive reinforcement in previous situations by a coach or a teacher, similar to the video where a coach or a teacher was saying good shot and well done. Her on drive was also a skill strength, as it was a controlled shot. She had control of it. This could link to vicarious experiences, and if she has experienced past success using this shot, and when the ball was pitched up and on the stumps, she would go to this shot to score plenty of runs and rotate strike. Her tactic strengths were her communication, especially with her partner at the non-striker's end. She was getting quick singles and preventing any run-outs and confusion between them. This could show effective leadership from the person. Her aggression was also a strength. She had strong, powerful shots earlier on in her innings, down the ground, scoring plenty of boundaries. She could be a type A personality as a result. Her running between the wickets, similar to her communication, was also a strength, as she was picking up plenty of singles and linking to one of her fitness strengths, which is cardiovascular endurance. As the game progressively went on, she was still running between the wickets quite effectively. Her identifying the field was also a tactic strength. She was able to pick the gaps early on, scoring boundaries. This could link to insight learning, the cognitive stage of learning, and how she she memorised the field to solve a problem and picking the gaps quite easily. Her run rate was also a strength tactically, which also puts less pressure on the remaining batsmen to come in, and also the batter at the other end, as she was consistently scoring runs through the first couple of overs and getting the team off to a good start. This could show she hasn't got state anxiety in certain situations. Her fitness strengths were her coordination. This is because she would time the ball very well, scoring boundaries quite frequently, linking to possibly acetylcholine being secreted across the synaptic cleft. Her thermal regulation was also of benefit. I had a short-sleeved shirt, and also on the shirt there was a sponsorship linking to the golden triangle of how sponsorship influences cricket. Her power was also a fitness strength, as she was able to, similar to aggression, show strong, powerful shots in the first couple of overs, linking to possibility of a fast glycolytic muscle fibre type. Her cardiovascular endurance, as I said before, was a strength, which is important in the last few overs of the game to make sure you last the entire game. This links to the receptors, which are the baroreceptors, which detect an increase in movement, an increase of blood pressure, proprioreceptors which detect an increase in movement, and chemoreceptors which detect an increase in CO2. These send messages and impulses to the CCC in the medulla oblongata to increase heart rate via the sympathetic nervous system. Her agility was also a strength. When the spinner was coming on and the keeper was stood up, she felt confident enough to shuffle her feet, moving down the ground quite quickly in order to get to the pitch of the delivery. Her overall strength, I would say, would be her straight drive or her cover drive, as when the ball was pitched up, she felt confident enough to play the shot, and she was timing it very well, scoring lots of runs and boundaries on lots of occasions. Her skill weaknesses, however, were her pull, one of which was her pull shot. As she played this in the air on a couple of occasions, and she was also hitting it too straight towards mid-wicket, where there was possibly fields there that could prevent runs being scored. This is because she had less control of the shot, linking to moment of inertia as her mass was distributed close to the axis of rotation, and also that the shot was not embedded into the long-term memory store. Her cut shot was also a weakness, as she was playing it too early and getting it too straight, similar to a pull shot. And if she had more control, it would be more of a risk-free shot and a run-scoring shot. Her backward punch off the back foot was also a weakness, as she didn't play it, and especially when the ball is short, it's a risk-free shot to play it and prevent wickets falling and putting more pressure on the batsmen to follow. In terms of her tactic weakness, her decision making was a possible weakness, as she was earlier on in the innings she was hitting out quite on a few occasions, which again, if she was to get out, would put lots of pressure on the following batsman. This could be because she may not have had positive reinforcement before in the past. Also, her shot selection was a weakness, as on a few occasions the bowler bowled outside off stump, and she was wanted it to hit it towards the leg side and use her on drive, which could show no self-confidence or no self-efficacy to hit on the offside. In terms of her fitness weaknesses, her balance, she was overbalancing quite a lot, especially when the keeper was up and she was trying to use her agility. This could be because she's not got as many points of contact, and it's also a risk of getting stumped and losing the wicket. Her muscular endurance was also a weakness, because at the start, again linking to her decision making, she was hitting out, but as the game slowly went on, she was losing control of the shots, and linking again to a pull shot, was hitting the ball in the air quite a few times. This links to the VCC and the receptors sending impulses to the VCC in the medulla oblongata to vasodilate at the muscles during exercise. Also, her speed could be a weakness, especially speed through the ball, as she was not using her wrists very much, possibly again linked to a pull shot and cut shot as they went in front of square leg. This could link to Newton's second law of acceleration, linking to the acceleration through the ball. The greater the force through the ball, the greater the acceleration. So the overall strengths of the performer, I would say, is that they are a strong leg side player of the ball, especially when the ball is pitched up, and they can also utilise the cover drive when the ball is pitched up as well. However, weaknesses are evident. The main weakness I have found that I'm going to prepare a 10-week development plan is the pull shot. This is because, again, she was playing the ball quite early and hitting it up in the air, increasing the risk of getting out. Also, it is a fundamental skill that if she was to get it correct would score plenty of runs. Overall, for the performer, I would place them at the performance stage of the participation pyramid, as they have clearly learn the foundation skills in school on the national curriculum, and from NGBs creating shorter versions of the game such as Quick Cricket. Also, the availability of time and money means that she can now afford the equipment to participate more often, and with the aid of local facilities within the local area, such as nets, she's able to practice more often. So the time scale is going to be 10 weeks at 2 sessions a week for 40 minutes. This is because I feel it is enough time to learn the skill and embed it into the long-term memory stores from the short-term memory. And again, it is a fundamental skill that when the bowler's bowling short, it is a go-to shot. I'm going to apply the principles of training to the development plan. It's going to be in moderation to prevent reversibility. It's going to be specific to the overall weakness of the pull shot. I'm going to show variance as the sessions are going to differ in terms of difficulty and intensity. There's going to be overload as well to see progression. In terms of periodisation, it is a mesocycle split into many microcycles of 40-minute sessions. In terms of the shot, the stance, the feet are going to be shoulder width apart, or possibly more than shoulder width apart, depending on how the batsman feels. This increases balance and stability as there is a wider base of support, and also lowers their centre of mass. The eye level is going to be square on, and the knees are going to be slightly flexed with weight evenly distributed on the balls of your feet. The flexion of the knee, the knee is a hinge joint with articulating bones of the femur and tibia, and flexion of the knee is caused by the agonist of the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and the bicep femoris. In terms of the grip, the forefinger and the thumb are going to form a V grip, with your hands close together towards the top of the handle for more control. Towards the back, for the back lift, the front elbow and shoulder are going to be flexed and towards the bowler. The shoulder is a ball and socket joint with articulating bones of the scapula and humerus, and the muscle responsible for causing flexion at the shoulder is the anterior deltoid. Also for the elbow, this is a hinge joint with articulating bones of the radius ulna and humerus, and the muscle responsible for causing flexion at the elbow is the bicep brachii. Also, flexion of the elbow is a third-class lever where the load arm is greater than the effort arm. The performer should open the bat towards the point region, and no movement should be performed until the batsman has played the shot. The top arm should be parallel also. In terms of the shot itself, the performer should start off with a high back lift. They should also step back and across to make themselves square on with the bowler and the wicket. The eyes should be fixed on the ball, and the contact should be made with the ball at arm's length. And the performer should aim a roundabout in front of square leg in order to score plenty of runs. The weight should be transformed from the rear leg to the front leg. This causes plantar flexion of the ankle, which the ankle is an example of a hinge joint with articulating bones of the talus, fibia and tibia. Also, it is a second-class lever with the effort arm greater than the load arm. In terms of the progressive practices, there's going to be a pre-test at the beginning, where the bowling machine is going to be at 55 miles an hour, bowling at a consistent short length to enable the performer to play the shot. And there's going to be cones situated 6 metres apart, roughly around about the square leg region. And the performer's going to have 10 feeds, and going to count how many go through the coned area. Also in this week, there's also going to be some shadow batting, where the performer should just learn on technique and feel how the stance and the grip and the back lift should feel. The bowling machine is an example of mechanical guidance and how modern technology has impacted the game of cricket over years. Also with shadow batting, we are lowering the arousal levels of the performer, linking to the drive theory stating that the higher the arousal, the more the dominant response comes out, and if the dominant response is incorrect, it could lead to performance levels decreasing. Also, we're taking the performer back to the cognitive stage of learning. In the following weeks, warm-up and cool-downs should be performed within each session. The warm-up should last for at least 20 minutes and involve stretches, skill-related drills, and make sure the heart rate is increasing to increase temperature of the muscles. In week 2, the ball is going to be placed on a tee. This links to Newton's first law of inertia. Also, the coned area is going to be situated similar to the pre-test and about 6 metres apart. This is going to be adapted if the performer is finding it quite easy, hitting it consistently through the coned area. We're going to narrow it, and vice versa. If he's finding it a bit too difficult, we're going to widen the area to increase confidence and motivation. Also, there's going to be a video of Ricky Ponting that we're going to show the performer. And this is an example of a role model, and it's an example of how a role model can change attitudes, linking to the 3 components of the triadic model, gaining consonance within them 3 components if the performer possibly has a negative attitude towards this particular shot, especially when they don't play it when it's short. There's going to be 20 feeds, and the performer should aim for around about 70% of these. This is an example of a SMART goal. Also, the ball on the tee represents a closed skill and self-paced. And when the performer is watching the role model, it's an example of visual guidance and Bandura's observational learning theory. In week 3, there's going to be a drop feed, where the performer now participates in an open skill and externally paced, with the coned area again situated around about 6 metres, just in front of square leg. And positive feedback should be used by the coach, similar in the video, to increase confidence and motivation. In week 4, there's going to be an underarm feed, with the coach feeding the balls around about full toss region, around about the between the hip region and the chest region. Again, the coned area is going to be situated 6 metres apart. And also, if the performer is feeling fatigued at any stage during these sessions, a break period will take place, and the performer can take an ergogenic aid such as an isotonic drink, for example, a Lucozade. In the 5th session, there's going to be an overarm feed, so the ball is going to be coming at a slight quicker pace. And again, the coned area is going to be situated 6 metres apart, and the performer should already be in the position square on, to make it a little bit easy for the performer. And if the performer is finding it that a bit too easy, then he should move towards a normal stance and get into the position while the ball is coming down from the feed. There's also going to be a mid-test to see if progression has made, and if there hasn't been progression made from the pre-test to the mid-test, then we're going to incorporate some of the previous sessions within the following sessions to increase confidence and motivation of the performer. In session 6, there's going to be a bowling machine at 50 miles an hour, again, but similar to the pre-test bowling at a consistent short length, where the performer can hit through a coned area of 6 metres. This is an example of mass practice to strengthen the SR bond, to make it a groove skill. Similarly again, positive reinforcement can be used to strengthen the SR bond, which is an example of the Laura effect in Thorndike's laws of operant conditioning. Also in week 7, there's going to be a bowling machine at 60 miles an hour this week. So this shows overload, but this time the bowling machine is not going to bowl at a consistent length. It's going to vary in terms of line and length. So the bowler, so the batter doesn't preempt the shot, and it's not too predictable. and it's a bit more game-like for the performer. In week 8 there's going to be a net session with a variety of bowlers ranging from spin to pace to medium pace. Again, bowling variety of line and lengths with the coned areas situated 6 metres apart again. And also during this session we're going to video the performer and play it back to him at a variety of camera angles and slow motion technology. In week 9 there's going to be a condition game, but this time the coned area is going to be reduced to 5 metres apart, and if the performer is able to get the ball through the cones they will score triple the amount of runs if they get it through the coned area. Negative feedback could also be used here by the coach if the performer doesn't hit it through the coned area, and it is an example of knowledge of results. Also, with the performers bowling at a varied line and lengths, it is also an example of varied practice. In the final week there's going to be an outdoor game and a friendly. This is because there's no pressure on the batsman and no consequences if the performer doesn't play the shot correctly or gets out at any stage. The post-test is going to end the session, similar again to the pre-test with the bowling machine at 55 miles an hour, 10 feeds, and the performer this time should be aiming for at least 100% through the coned area.
Good mate.
Yeah.
That was alright, wasn't it?